In every era, humanity faces a silent crisis, not of war or disease, but of awareness. Today, our attention is fragmented, our thoughts scattered across endless screens, and our sense of self buried beneath constant stimulation. We live in an age where information travels faster than reflection, where reaction replaces understanding, and silence feels almost unbearable. People mistake activity for growth, connection for meaning, and knowledge for wisdom. But awareness, the ability to see oneself clearly, is disappearing. The mind that once observed reality now drowns in distraction that we are constantly entertained, yet deeply restless, constantly informed, yet profoundly lost. This decline doesn't announce itself loudly. It happens quietly, every time we escape boredom instead of facing it, every time we consume without thinking, every time we mistake noise for truth. This is how awareness dies, not through ignorance, but through overstimulation disguised as progress. Modern life has convinced us that being informed means being aware. We scroll through endless news, opinions, and updates, believing that access to information equals understanding. But awareness is not about knowing more, it's about seeing clearly. Most people live in a constant state of mental noise, reacting to stimuli without reflection. The illusion of awareness is dangerous because it feels real. We mistake quick opinions for deep thought, and digital activity for inner clarity. True awareness requires stillness, the ability to step back from stimulation and observe one's own mind. Without this distance, thought becomes mechanical and emotion becomes programmed. The more we consume, the less we question. And slowly, we begin to confuse perception with truth, attention with wisdom, and movement with meaning. This is how the illusion grows, quietly, invisibly, until the mind forgets how to be silent. We are living in the most distracted period in human history. Every sound, image, and notification competes for our attention, fragmenting our thoughts into shorter and shallower bursts. Technology has not just reshaped communication, it has reprogrammed consciousness. The brain, once capable of deep focus, now constantly seeks novelty and stimulation. Every scroll releases a small reward, training us to crave the next one. This endless loop of dopamine keeps the mind busy but empty. Distraction is not harmless, it erodes the capacity for reflection, patience, and emotional depth. A distracted person cannot think independently, they can only react. In such a world, silence becomes uncomfortable, solitude feels like loss, and depth feels unnecessary. The age of distraction doesn't destroy intelligence, it destroys direction. It keeps us occupied, but disconnected, from others, from truth, and ultimately, from ourselves. Distraction is not just a habit, it is a form of psychological control. When the mind is constantly occupied, it loses the ability to question, to resist, and to choose. People believe they are free because they can consume anything, but freedom without awareness is an illusion. We run from silence because it reveals the truth of our inner state, our fears, our emptiness, our unresolved thoughts. To avoid that confrontation, we stay busy, entertained, and emotionally numb. This is how distraction becomes a prison built from comfort. As Carl Jung once noted, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. The modern mind escapes through stimulation instead of introspection, mistaking noise for safety. But the more we escape ourselves, the less we understand who we are, until our own thoughts feel like strangers. The final consequence of constant distraction is the slow death of self-awareness. Without reflection, the human being turns mechanical, reacting, scrolling, existing without intention. The ability to witness one's own thoughts, to observe without judgment, begins to disappear. In this state, identity becomes fluid, shaped by algorithms, trends, and approval. People begin to mirror what they see, losing the boundary between their mind and the world's noise. Awareness is replaced by reaction, and emotion replaces reason. This is not evolution, it is erosion. A society that cannot pause cannot think, and a person who cannot reflect cannot grow. When self-awareness dies, morality weakens, empathy fades, and individuality dissolves. We become predictable, programmable, profitable, functioning, but no longer truly conscious. The tragedy is not that we are losing information, but that we are losing the inner space to understand it. Awareness can be lost, but it can also be rebuilt. The mind that has been numbed by distraction can be reawakened through stillness and observation. The process is not complex, but it demands courage, the courage to disconnect, to sit in silence, and to confront one's own thoughts. True awareness begins when we stop reacting and start noticing. Through reflection, journaling, or even quiet observation, the mind regains clarity. Attention becomes deliberate instead of automatic. Every moment of silence becomes an act of resistance against a world designed to keep us asleep. Philosophers like Socrates and Marcus Aurelius understood this, that self-awareness is the foundation of freedom. The goal is not to escape the world, but to see it clearly. When we master attention, we reclaim the only power that cannot be taken from us, the power to know ourselves. The modern world will always seek your attention, but it is your awareness that defines who you are. To live consciously is to move against the current, to value depth over noise, presence over speed, and truth over comfort. The death of self-awareness is not inevitable, it happens only when we stop noticing. By reclaiming silence, by reflecting deeply, and by choosing what deserves our focus, we rebuild the foundation of the mind. Awareness is not a luxury, it is the essence of being human. Without it, life becomes reaction. With it, every action gains meaning. The world doesn't need more information, it needs individuals who can see clearly. The path to awakening begins with a single decision, to pay attention again, because to be aware is not just to think, it is to truly live.